Facebook has banned Myanmar's military from using Facebook and Instagram. There have been mass protests across Myanmar since the army took power in a coup at the beginning of February, declaring electoral fraud. Facebook says the risks of allowing the Myanmar army on its platforms are too great. The social media giant has faced criticism in the past over the use of the site to incite hatred against Rohingya Muslims. Well, joining me now is Mike Isaac, technology reporter for the New York Times in San Francisco. Mike, thanks very much for staying up late to talk to us. How much of a difference do you think this could make?
Yeah, well, I think, you sort of touched upon some really important points before, which is, depending on who you ask, it's either right about time or Facebook is long overdue, considering the fact that the platform has been used by the military in Myanmar to do this sort of stuff for a very long time, especially acting out and inciting mass murder and rape against the Rohingya Muslims. So I think the thinking is, thankfully, they did it, from a number of human rights activists, and it will be much more difficult for the military to sort of spread messages that are probably false to the rest of the population through Facebook, especially because for people in Myanmar, often Facebook is the internet rather than another different channel. So I do think it'll be effective. It's more, did they do it soon enough, or should they have done this 2 or 3 years ago?
Right. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of really horrible atrocities have happened over there. And now, for a long time, Facebook's whole position has been, we're a neutral arbiter, not an arbiter of truth. We're a neutral platform. We just sort of are, we're like the land and let everyone sort of sort things out. But they've increasingly found themselves in this position where they have to essentially enforce their rules, their terms of service, and they no longer can sort of back out of it. So I do think that this is really long overdue, and sort of fascinating that it comes now as opposed to when there was, literally genocide incited by their platform in 2017.
And Mike, you talk about increasingly we're seeing this kind of action, social media companies taking their own measures against behaviour or words they find unacceptable. We've seen Donald Trump blocked from Twitter, Myanmar's military now banned from Facebook and Instagram. I suppose it's instant. It's with the press of a button. You don't have to go through a court or a parliament or get international agreement. It is a remarkable power to have.
That's totally right. I think that's the sort of flip side on a lot of this, which is, these companies are really kind of acting like de facto nation states at this point. Facebook is used by more than 3 billion people, hundreds of millions of people on Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp. And so there has to be some sort of process, I think, around it. The companies, the problem, I guess, is that in a number of countries, especially in the United States, that regulation just doesn't exist yet. And so in the absence of that, they're sort of wandering around at the company trying to figure that out. Facebook has created this oversight board for itself, but we'll see how effective that is. It's all still really early days on how this stuff should be governed and if it will be governed by anyone outside of Facebook.
Mike, we appreciate your time there. Mike Isaac, who's a technology reporter for the New York Times, joining us from San Francisco. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.